Watch Party. I remember we had a conversation one day, and you had
We
mentioned you
do that.
spent
We do that. Yeah,
we do time to time. I believe you mentioned you spent some time in Las Vegas.
I have. Yes.
I think you might be able to answer this, but can you name three casinos in Las Vegas? Go.
MGM, Excalibur, Bellagio. Caesar's Palace, um, Orleans. The Orleans is an off-strip one. Binion's downtown, Golden Nugget downtown,
Okay,
the
now you're just
Mirage.
showing off.
Are we still going? Oh, okay.
Now you're just showing off that the bomb has been detonated like 3 minutes
The
ago. Um,
Paris, the
you kept on
Win,
going off. We didn't get a chance
the
to
Bank, which is the
introduce.
fictional one in Ocean's
Okay,
13. That was the Bank. The
you know what?
Dunes, which is where the Bellagio used to be. So that
Hmm.
it used to be the Dunes. They took it down and built that. So it's the Bellagio now. That's an old one that doesn't exist anymore. Stratosphere. There's the
Yeah,
Hilton up in the north of the strip.
I did say three and not 30.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I mean, because you had 5 seconds too. So
Hooters,
if it
which
was
is just
30,
off Las Vegas
is
Boulevard
is
across
that
from
a
MGM.
is that a casino now? Hooters? I mean, like
It
Twin
was,
Peaks.
unless it closed
Okay.
down. I don't know. It might have closed from COVID during that time, but yeah,
Ye-
it was across from the MGM, just off the.
Ah, I like owls. I might have
Mhm.
to try that place someday.
Yeah, there you go.
All right. So, what are we
I'm
doing?
surprised. Yeah, there
Yeah,
you go.
yeah. All right,
Anyway,
guys. Yeah, for those that found us or maybe was following us, some time ago, I'm Peter. Joining me here is Watch Party. We
hello.
are here. Yep. Hello, everyone. Greetings. We are here to give you guys non-spoiler thoughts slash reactions to season one of Obliterated, Netflix's latest release, a action comedy. They blur the lines a little bit with the genre as Counterbalance Entertainment kind of does.
As they do.
Um,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah. So first off, we are recording this way in advance in the past. So if my calculations are correct, this is November 30th or thereafter of
And
2023.
it's midnight, and you just turned on this podcast to figure out, should I watch this new show that just dropped on Netflix? And here's your answer: yes, go watch it.
There you go. Okay,
Spoiler
since
review done.
since
There you go. We'll see you for the
since
spoiler.
you since you already started, and also if you guys looked at our feed, there should have been two episodes. This one, the non-spoiler reaction after, quote unquote, immediately after, watching the show. And then we're going to have a full, a spoiler-filled episode recapping season one with all the details and our thoughts on the characters and the plot and the story, all of those things. That should be the second episode ready there for you guys after you guys, binge if that's what you decide to do. Watch Party, you kind of already jumped into it.
Yeah.
Give us your thoughts on watching season one of Obliterated. Obviously, a non-spoiler, but did you enjoy the show?
Non-spoiler. Yes,
Yeah.
I did. I think it hooked me right away. It was like almost the first like scene. It's like an action scene that showing them at their game, so to speak. Like I was a little imbalanced, but then once the show gets going, I was really into it, hooked in. I definitely would recommend watching the first two episodes together. I kind of watched the first two on that first day. I think that the second episode is really amazing, has some of my favorite parts, but yeah, just really strong, doing what they do best. The comedy it's just really funny. The action, there's a lot of action these days. I think they made a deliberate effort to not just be creative, but they're also it uses the characters. A lot of the action scenes are characters. They're just not pointless fight scenes. And so that's something, when you really dig in, you'll see is going on in this show that doesn't go on in other shows. So just right off those two, comedy is really funny, and the action, it's more unique. It's character driven. And I think the focus on characters is really unique in maybe one of the strongest parts of this show.
You mentioned they, and for those that don't know who they are, we're talking about John, Josh, and Hayden,
The
John Hurwitz,
creators. Yeah. Mhm.
right, Josh Heald, Hayden Schlossberg, and Dina Hillier, part of Counterbalance Entertainment.
Mhm.
John, Josh, and Hayden are the the creatives behind Cobra Kai. For those that don't know, in Watch Party, when before you watched the show, I gave you kind of I guess, advice, if you want to call it that. I said to divorce yourself from the knowledge that these guys also did Cobra Kai. Did that help you at all? Did you think that was even necessary to tell you
I
that?
think that, well, I'll tell you, I think that's something I can normally do pretty well. Um, and plus I know their background, from that hard R comedy, which is something that they have been talking about almost from the beginning of the show. So, yeah, so I mean, that was something I was able to do, like, other than maybe a certain, cameo or two, the fact that they were really connected to the Cobra Kai universe, really meant nothing to me, if that makes sense.
Yes, it does. And, that's something. Oh, and also, like, for those that do follow me and what I do on social media, I will have already, well, actually, simultaneously have a non-spoiler written review that I would have shared on social media via a link on the website, either CobraKaiCompanion.com or CompanionNetwork.com.
Are you
But
giving them homework? Are you just
yeah,
like, you're
no,
listening to the podcast? Well, now here's your homework. Go
well, no,
listen to.
this is more of like, don't waste your time if you read that non-spoiler review, because
Mhm,
I'm basically going to regurgitate the same thing for people
mhm,
that prefer like an audio platform rather than
mhm.
reading, and the
There
reading
you
will
go.
be there for those that are like surfing the interwebs looking for articles to
Okay,
read,
okay.
and maybe are not podcast listeners. So if you read that, I will say no need to listen to this, because I'm again regurgitating a lot of my thoughts.
Mhm,
That's something that I thought might be. I think it's kind of important that you don't think about how these guys also created Cobra Kai, which had was already an established universe with characters that we were already familiar with. Because I don't want people like there with that could come with a lot of baggage.
mhm,
People might have certain expectations. Like, oh well, Cobra Kai follows like these rules, or this is how they do their plots. You know what I mean? Like, I
mhm.
don't want anyone to make those comparisons. Like, this is a brand new show. This is a very unique show. And yes, when I spoke with John, Josh, and Hayden about Cobra Kai and briefly touched on Obliterated, they emphasized that this was a hard R, like, TVMA, which yes, it is. If you live in a household where you might have to pause something because either you're uncomfortable with certain things in shows or movies, or if there's a little one around the house, perhaps, or you're of a certain age and you still have your parents that you don't want knowing you watch certain things. This is that type of
Yep.
show. Like,
Kids watch it after your parents go to sleep.
right?
Sneak down. We've
Yes,
all done it. Sneak down when the lights are off. Then, turn it, you got to turn the volume down a little. It's okay. Use the
just a little.
subtitles. It'll help. Yeah. But yeah, there is some, uh, uh, gratuitous of anything you can think of, I guess.
Yes, yes, that is the key word. That was something I was going to mention in my non-spoiler review as well, the written review rather. That the nudity is gratuitous. If you haven't seen Game of Thrones, that might be like a pretty good comp. Maybe this might even have a little bit
Except
more.
this goes in other directions. It's not just
Does it?
meant to be titillating or sexually exciting. There's
Right. Yes.
there's some bathroom humor,
Yes.
vaguely
Yeah.
thrown in with the nudity. So yeah, yeah.
Yeah, there's I feel the first episode definitely sets the tone. If you can get through the first episode with the content, then you have nothing to worry about for the rest of the season.
Oh, I
Now
would say
this,
there's a little bit to worry about, but no,
yeah,
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 go on.
different type of worry.
Spoiler
Uh,
review. We'll talk about it.
Yes, yes. So let's think back to what we learned from like Deadline and some of these other articles, right? So we'll just kind of repeat some of the things that were mentioned. This has 8 episodes, roughly an hour each. I'm not sure where you saw it, but I did hear it in your video, Watch Party, where you did I think it was just shy of under 5 minutes, just kind of talking about Obliterated.
Hmm.
And you mentioned that this is like 24 meets The Hangover,
The
right?
Hangover, yeah. Hmm.
I don't recall seeing 24 as a comp, but it is, like
Hmm.
each episode is roughly an hour in their real time.
Yeah.
And so and you will kind of feel that as well. And
Mhm.
because there were things I was kind of questioning, not knowing that, and then I saw your video, I was like, okay, you know what? That makes more sense. And so I don't know if a lot of people are kind of putting that out there, like, oh, okay, yeah, it's also kind of real time, 1 hour per episode. So totally, what did you think about the comedy? Did you think it was bad? It's kind of like comedy action, right? But I feel there's a good amount of drama as well. You talked about like character driven. That is something that we do get from Cobra Kai. A lot of the character interactions and dynamics. You get that with this squad as well. The squad of soldiers from
Mhm.
various branches of the military in government. How did you think the different genres, was it pretty balanced, or do you think it's kind of one or two more of like certain genres than it is
I
others?
think it's pretty balanced. It leans to me at least, it feels like it leans a little bit more on the comedy, or at least I will say I felt like the comedy part of it was stronger. So it like um so did, which isn't to say like the action wasn't good. It's just like I feel like comedy, like they were able to do things more original in terms of jokes and humors, and willing to, so to speak, go there. Then you get in action. Action movies and TV shows these days go. It's harder and harder to be original. But I thought with the comedy they were able to stake out new ground.
Oh, absolutely. And where do you want to start? We kind of already kind of talked about like the show in general terms, in terms of like the tone and kind of what to expect. Like, we mentioned the action. It does follow a squad that has to defuse a bomb after thinking that they defused a real bomb, which was actually a fake. And
Mm-hmm.
so, as the show progresses, different types of drugs start to kick in. So it's not like they're
Mm-hmm.
coming down, for the hangover. It's they're most of them are kind of starting up. They're high.
Yeah, I mean that's basically it, and it carries basically through to the last episode. So, um,
Yeah.
there's even a moment where like even he keeps drinking because he's like, well, if I start getting, he wants to avoid a hangover, right? So they just keep going and keeping it going.
What did you think about these characters?
So a few things like I think something we can say generally, I think like, they're all from different branches or something. And I realized why they did that. This is something I think I even said in one of the earlier episodes. I said it, I think in my YouTube video. I never understood what this was. It didn't make sense. I realized why they're doing that. It's kind of like a way to bring everyone together. Um, I don't want. I don't. Well, I don't want to. I don't want to say. Dude, listen to
Right.
the spoiler episode, and I'll go into it more. Without giving it away. But like I think, it's actually they made an effort to be patriotic. So this is meant to be actually a pro America show in a way. I think you can look at it like that. And I think that was a little unexpected, and I think a good decision to really actually help the show. Um, so you asked me what I think about the characters. So I think what we're going to see as we get into this, diff, there's a big mix in characters. Definitely a lot of surprises, revelations, things you feel like things I thought was like a fake and then ended up being true. So there's definitely a lot of characters there. I think there's at least one character will be generally disliked. This is from the core team. I think this person did some bad things, but then like they make up for it. So I think there's a lot of people to root for. So, maybe especially the leads, Chad and Trunk, I expect will come out of this really popular. And
Yeah.
I will say for whatever it's worth, at least as of where I'm sitting now, I just finished yesterday. I've only watched it once. I actually think Paul may be my favorite character, or at least
Oh,
I felt
wow.
like I related to him the most.
Okay.
Um, if you just want to know about me, like, yeah, well, without, yeah, you'll see when you watch the show. I feel like I may be related to Paul the most, and maybe he's my favorite as of right now.
That's very interesting. I cannot wait to get to the spoiler recap with you. There might be some like time in between this recording and that recording as well. At this point, I have seen the show almost two times. I'm on my second binge right now, but I call it it's more of a binge light because I'm not able to watch them consecutively. Um,
Job and family gets in the way. Yeah. Yeah.
I definitely am enjoying it my second time around just because, this is a brand new show. These are new characters, right? Like
Mhm.
we keep bringing up Cobra Kai and then I'm trying to say like divorce yourself from that knowledge, but Cobra Kai has characters that a lot of us knew and grew up with. These are brand new characters. And so my first time watch was I'm trying to figure out who is what. Is a certain character a stereotype of character or, like archetype or, things of that nature. I'm trying to understand everyone's humor or their purpose and things like that. And then I go back and rewatch it and I'm picking up other things, jokes are hitting me a little bit more. I'm like, oh,
Mhm.
okay, now I get that joke. Or, oh, that was a joke because I was paying attention to something else. And
Mhm.
so, like their previous work, this particular project, like you've, at least for me, I feel rewarded on my second watch picking up more things just because it's so dense, just
Mhm.
like their other stuff. And so if you like the character driven things that they have done before, you're getting it here as well. Like
Mhm.
the music, the composers are Zach and Leo, Zach Robinson and Leo Birenberg, who are
Really
also
bring it good.
oh my God, it is the soundtrack is it's not out yet for us at this moment, but there's a few sequences, some action sequences where I'm like, I need to hear that without the sound effects because that sounds really awesome. For those that didn't listen to our what was the previous episode?
The
It
trailer
was
one.
going through the trailer, yes.
Yeah.
In that one, you mentioned how because you tweeted with Zach and he was referencing like, oh, this is like OG Hans Zimmer mixed with like
Right.
David Guetta, and
Mhm.
for those that like that EDM type music. There's a lot of great scores in here. Some of it, actually, I don't know about you. I even got a little bit of like Cobra Kai feels for some of the more like lack of a better word, like bombastic type of like operatic type score. Like the one that
Yeah.
sounds like Hans Zimmer-ish. I feel. So the music sounds good. I did.
Watch the credits. Like I watch the credits every episode, and I think I don't know. Is it different for every episode? At least I didn't recognize it being the same. But like the credits, it's good music. Just keep going. You
It
know.
is really good,
Yeah.
and at this point, they are still I'm sorry, Grammy nominated. I don't know when the Grammys are going to be, but they were nominated for their work on the Weird Al movie, which both you and
Mhm.
I covered on Nostalgic. Maybe we
Mhm.
dropped it on the Cobra Kai one too. I don't know, but anyway, so like they are talented AF, right? Like
Mhm.
so it's like, oh, Zach and Leo are on this. Well, of course they did Cobra Kai, but like they really what I like about Zach and Leo is, I also cover another show that they composed was Twisted Metal. Every show that they do in project, they sound all so different. And so that's what I really do like about them
Right.
as composers, and it just makes sense.
Mhm.
Um, I don't know who the stunt coordinator was. I don't believe it was Ken, right? Who also
I
worked on,
forget his. It was the guy who was the crooked ref in Cobra Kai 4, right? Season
was it
4.
really, was it Don,
I
Don
because
Lee?
I thought they said that, didn't they?
I don't remember. So, okay. So we don't,
The
we
guy
don't
that
have
who played the ref. Let me see if they have.
I don't think that was
Um,
Don Lee though, because Don Lee played,
no, 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 no,
yeah.
no,
So
no, no,
this is
no.
a
The guy
different one.
who
Okay.
played the who
Right.
played the.
Okay. That I do not know that gentleman. So it is a different stunt coordinator from their other work.
Wait, wait, wait.
Right. So yeah.
Justin Reamer, Felipe Savage is co-coordinator. Marcus Young.
Okay. We'll go with that for now.
Yeah,
Oh, hey, and Eugene Kim plays Paul Young. So
yeah.
yeah, yeah. So it's a really interesting ties with like the names. Some people on social media have been saying like the lead Chad McKnight is possibly like a riff on like Chad McQueen, one of the
Hmm.
OG Cobra Kai members. Um,
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of other things like, because, we're trying to keep this relatively short and non-spoiler just to kind of get people hyped up to check out the show. We both recommend it.
Mhm.
What are some other things you want to touch on before we kind of end this? Because then that way people can check this out, or you even go straight to the spoiler
Go
if
into
they've
the
already watched a
spoiler.
few episodes or whatever.
Um, Other things that I want to touch in on.
But don't listen to the spoiler if you haven't finished the series because there's some stuff that you do not want to know yet.
Yeah, it is worth going in blind.
Yes,
So
100%.
I don't know what anything. Um,
Is there
it's
okay? Think
it's
about
good
like
stuff.
the early words of like, oh, this new show, and like them kind of promoting it, right? Like, do you think they delivered on what they said, or do you think there was something they said? You're like, well, I don't know if I got that in this show, but they
Well,
did seem
one say
expressing.
I will say just like change when it was originally announced. I think it was going to be 10 episodes on TBS, right? And then when it went to Netflix, it dropped down to 8. And like I remember thinking, especially between like 4 and 5, I felt like I could see, like I feel like there was a spot in 5 where I feel like maybe that was at one point going to be like the midpoint of the season. Like so I'm a little curious just on how that changed, but it worked. But then I thought maybe it worked better at 8 episodes. And I remember even at one point wondering like, could you do this even shorter, like almost as like a mini series rather than like a full series? But so that's something I was thinking. The only
Do
other
you
thing
think,
was
but perhaps that to change from like TBS to Netflix? Maybe when it was on Netflix with 10 episodes, those were closer to 45 minutes. You think that could have been the difference?
um you know what? It could have been a little bit. Um but then if they're delivering episodes, I don't know. Yeah, I'm certain like things got expanded and then collapsed, like so fewer episodes, but then they're a little bit running a little bit longer. So it kind of
Yeah.
balanced out. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I think I've kind of touched on the things I wanted to say for a non-spoiler review. Um,
Hmm.
it's something that I think if you watch it more than once, you'll pick up on other things. I think the storytelling is like really intricate that you don't want to have this just thrown on in the background and watch casually. Like there's a lot of crafting that went into this, because each episode is like, quote unquote real time 1 hour for the characters. There's a lot of like intricate placing of the characters, and there are certain
Hmm.
cuts where you're following certain characters, and now they cross paths with others, and now we go to them, and we have lost time with those previous people, kind of thing. So it's
Hmm.
really well crafted, and it's crazy because like this is something so different from these guys who have done these other stuff. And you could have, if I went in blind not knowing who created this stuff, I couldn't have told you that was like Josh and Hayden. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
Like you could have said, oh, these are the guys who did 24. They did something different. I would have watched it. I was like, wow, hey, I never saw 24, but this show is pretty good,
Hmm.
And so I do like that. Like there's not a lot of things that make you think about like any of their previous stuff. And I think that's also the best way to kind of watch it. Well, I think if you have nothing else, that's probably a good place to end it. Hopefully, you guys decide to check this out if you were kind of on the fence with something different. And for those that, yeah, again, if you have kids or you're a kid, wait for your parents to go to sleep or whatever, however you want to watch it. I know Hayden was kind of emphasizing like, yes, TVMA, they all were. But
Hmm.
once I got to, I forgot what episode, I go, you know what? I need to go back on social media and recut that part and just let people know, you guys, this is a pretty hard R.
Yeah. 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 There
So,
you go. That's in it. It's really good, but it is a hard R.
yeah. All right. So, for those that are just kind of finding us because you guys were interested about the show and want to follow us on social media, Watch Party, where can people find you?
I'm on Twitter and Instagram, Watch Party One, and of course YouTube at the channel Watch Party. Any obliterated videos I have after it's released will be full spoiler. So by all means check them out, but make sure you watch the show first.
All right. And if you guys have not yet, please subscribe to the audio podcast. We will have interviews at this point. There might have been at least one interview dropped as well. Maybe two that were non-spoiler. So check that out. probably some people like behind the scenes. But for me, you can find me on Instagram at Obliterated Companion or Obliterated Pod on Twitter. And you can follow Companion Network on Instagram as well, where that's kind of the hub for all the shows that I cover. If our format or what we do here is something that might interest you in checking out some of these other shows too. The people that are involved with Cobra Kai, like even like writers who went on to create other shows themselves, they've all been pretty solid stuff. And so it was a no-brainer when Obliterated was announced, what, almost 4 years ago. At this point, we're like, we'll check it out,
Yeah,
you know?
jeez.
And so here we are on Netflix,
Hmm.
hard R, and a lot of fun, for sure. So, join us on social media, check out the, episodes that we've already put out, and we hope to connect with you guys, at some point.
Bye bye.
This has been a production of the Companion Network.